Well, I'm delighted to introduce Babette Rothschild, already well known as the author of The Body Remembers, currently the best-selling professional book in the field of trauma therapy, and an international trainer of trauma therapists. Welcome, Babette.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, today we're going to be talking about your new book, 8 Keys to Safe Trauma Recovery. You're best known for your professional books. What's made you write this book, a self-help book, for the general reader?
I'm hoping to fill a gap. I've been teaching and writing for helping professionals for a long time, and I want the general public, the layperson or non-professional who suffers from trauma, to have the same knowledge at disposal for them for what might be helpful or not helpful, so that they can make informed decisions about their own recovery, whether they're pursuing it as purely self-help, whether they're engaging in professional help, whatever.
Okay, yeah. Now, your book is called Safe Trauma Recovery. Is it safe for people to do this work on their own? Don't you really need the help of a counsellor or a therapist to work on trauma?
I'd like to talk a little bit about my use of the term safe. Trauma recovery is arduous. It's difficult. And people recovering from trauma sometimes feel as bad or worse than they did during the time of the initial event, with the same kind of symptoms, rapid heart rate, rapid respiration, fainting, what we call dissociation, where people can't feel their bodies or feel like time is warped, slowing down or speeding up. And those symptoms can be intensified in trauma recovery, even with working with helping professionals. And my use of the term safe, and one of my goals for the book, is to help people have the tools at hand to be able to avoid some of the worst pitfalls of trauma recovery and tone down the pace so that they can manage it in a way that doesn't cause them an intensification of symptoms, but more alleviation of symptoms.
Okay. Now, we've all heard about people working on trauma and having to work through painful memories. Are you saying that this diving into the difficult stuff in the past is not a necessary part of working on trauma?
I'm saying that the first goal of trauma therapy should only be, first and foremost, and if you write it down, please put it in bold caps and underscore it, the only goal of trauma recovery should be to improve the person's quality of life. That's it. Now, sometimes processing trauma memories serves that goal and helps facilitate people to improve their quality of life. But unfortunately, sometimes processing trauma memories compromises a person's quality of life. They lose their coping mechanisms. They do what we call decompensate, which means they stop being able to cope with or compensate for what has happened to them. And in that case, working with trauma memories is not a good idea. And there's a second reason for not working with trauma memories at times, and that is if the person doesn't want to. There's no reason to go into that difficult, upsetting past unless the person who's suffering from trauma believes that it will actually help to improve their quality of life.
And you don't think that's just people avoiding difficult things because they might be uncomfortable?
Again, the first and only goal of trauma recovery should be to improve the person's quality of life. So if avoiding painful memories helps improve their quality of life, why not? As a matter of fact, if you think about, and I'll ask the people listening to the interview here, to think about people they know who've suffered trauma and who function relatively normally and have done so without going to therapy or even using self-help. How many of those people go over their memories again and again and again? Most people don't. It's something that we've developed in the trauma field for that small portion of people who have not recovered from trauma on their own. And but the natural path of recovery from trauma doesn't include the habit or the tradition of repeatedly revisiting memories.
Okay. So I have to ask you this. Self-help. Isn't that really a waste of time? Don't most people just get distracted or discouraged after they bought the book and give up?
I have no idea where you would get that idea or those statistics. I think that people listening to this interview might even be offended by what you just said. Of course, self-helpers pursue very seriously, for the most part, their own recovery. I think the reason that you hear of people pursuing more and more is because if they aren't finding what they need, of course they have to go on, to something else. So the other thing is, like I said, and this is very important to remember, and I hope also helping professionals listening to this interview will remember what I'm about to say. It's only been in the last 20 years, really, that methods for trauma recovery, both self-help and professional help, have been available. Prior to that, for thousands and thousands of years, people have recovered from trauma, for the most part, on their own. Of course, there are people, a portion of people who haven't and have had further difficulties and not been able to be helped. But most people, for thousands of years, have recovered on their own with the help of their internal resources, their spiritual beliefs, the help of their community, their religious group, their neighbors, their friends, their family. What we're doing with professional help and self-help is very valuable for the people who can't utilize all those things I just mentioned, or for whom those things are not enough. But self-help is not for everybody, also because not everybody needs it.
Yeah, fair enough. You mentioned community just now. Am I right in thinking that in addition to the book, there's some kind of community support going to be available for people who are using this book?
Well, as a matter of fact, we're putting together a website, www.safetraumarecovery.com, in the hopes that a community will develop. There'll be information on the website, including a free newsletter, access to forums, access to question and answer, and it's my hope that people who read the book, or at least a good portion of people who read the book, will be able to use the website as an adjunct. We'll have additional exercises, we'll have videos of exercises, more of these kind of interviews, and a real chance for people to interact with others who are pursuing their own recovery also. One of the hard statistics we do have in the trauma field is how important contact and support are in recovering from trauma, that people with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, often become very isolated. And it's my hope that the website will be a contribution to contact and support for those people.
Wow, thank you very much. So, it sounds like there's quite a lot of people who might well benefit from this book. This isn't the last of the interviews we're going to do, and in the next one I hope you're going to tell us something about the range of people who you think might benefit for this. But
I'd be delighted to.
But for now, thank you very much.
Thank you.